I recently showed you guys this beast of a subwoofer, the Rockford Fosgate T213. Now it's time to pair it up with my Audio Control LC-1.1500 and build a box. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the complete build process, show you some things that I like to add for very powerful subwoofer systems, and we are going to do some test bumping. If this is your first time here, welcome to CarAudioFabrication, the channel where together we learn how to master car audio and how to design, build, and install our dream car audio system. I do review videos, lesson videos, and build log videos like this one, so if you guys enjoy that kind of thing, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Let's get on into the build. So this right here is the space that I'm going to install this subwoofer box into in this Jeep Wrangler. Now the first step anytime you're making a custom subwoofer enclosure is to determine the max size of that enclosure that you're willing to have. As an example, I could say I want my max depth to be from here all the way to here, and that would give me a lot more room for a subwoofer enclosure, bigger subwoofers, more air volume, but that's not very practical. What if I want to leave at least a little bit of room for storage right here? So then my max depth is only going to be from here to here. So when you have a feel for the max dimensions of what you want that subwoofer enclosure to be, you measure the depth, the width, and the height. Once we have those max dimensions, we need to do all the math and calculations and come up with our subwoofer box design. If you need help with the design, I can help you out. Check out more details at my website, CarAudioFabrication.com. For this build, I'm doing an up-firing subwoofer with a slot port firing to the rear. And as this is a very strong, powerful subwoofer, we got plenty of bracing inside. Along with an overall view and a bill of materials and the overall dimension sizes, I have dimensions for every single board that is part of this subwoofer enclosure. So let's start making all of these cuts. For this build, I'm going to use this material. This is 3/4 inch thick MDF. I like using this MDF because it's very heavy and very dense, which makes it less likely to resonate or vibrate. Let's fire up Old Faithful here and get to cutting. So I've got all my 45-degree pieces cut. These will go in the corners of the box along with the corner of the port, and this is the port end brace, and I've got everything else cut. Now there's a really important thing that we should do here before we start cutting the subwoofer hole or doing any of the detail work, and that is do a quick test fit. What I want to do is I want to take the back, the bottom, and one of the sides of the box, and let's take it over to the vehicle and test it out. Got all three pieces in the vehicle here, and everything fits as intended. Always, always, always do that step. It never ceases to amaze me when people will build a full subwoofer box, get everything done, especially in trunk cars, go to put it in, and it doesn't fit. To continue the build process here, I'm going to start with doing some of the detail work, laying out the subwoofer cutout hole on the baffle. So this huge Rockford Fosgate T213 shipped with this mounting baffle. I might as well put it to good use, so I'm going to carefully align it on my baffle and trace its circle to the baffle shape. That way I can stick it in position, and then over at the router I'm using a flush trim bit to copy that exact shape and profile to my new piece. Because this subwoofer is so powerful, I'm doubling up the baffle, so I'm laminating a second piece of wood to my original piece of wood using wood glue, and then copying that on the router as well. Inside of the enclosure, for some additional strength, I'm making a window brace, so here I'm laying out all of the cuts for that brace. Now you could cut out each of these rectangles using a jigsaw, but I want the lines to be perfectly straight, so I'm using some template tape along with some old pieces of wood and template taping them to that piece so that I can then flush trim that on the router as well. I've got both of the window braces made now, but you'll notice that they have these hard corners. I want to smooth out those corners so the air can flow in and out efficiently. I'm using this router bit, the roundover bit. This adds a curved profile to the edge. I also used that smaller size roundover bit on this port piece here on where the corner of the port will be. But roundover router bits do come in many different sizes, so now I'm swapping it out to a much larger one for this port end piece. Once rounded over, here's what that end profile looks like. So here we have it, my friends. Every board is cut and ready for assembly. But real quick, before we move on to assembly, I want to thank monthly channel sponsor Crutchfield. Even if you have a ton of car audio experience, there are times that it can be useful to have help from an advisor. Crutchfield is a consumer electronics retailer that I've always felt comfortable ordering from because of their top-notch customer service. If we go onto their site, crutchfield.com, we can click this and see that advisors are ready to answer our call. Perhaps you can't call and prefer to live chat. That's an option too. You can even schedule a call. Additionally, since Crutchfield does such an excellent job collecting vehicle-specific data, you can speak to someone that has access to first-hand information on your exact vehicle, which is incredibly helpful. So whether it's assistance with picking out the right gear for your vehicle or getting help with that gear during the install, Crutchfield has you covered. Don't forget to take advantage of the special offer for car audio fabrication fans by going to crutchfield.com/CAF. Let's get back into assembly. This is such a big subwoofer, we need a really strong, robust way of holding it into the baffle. So I'm going to be using these 1/4-20 bolts with these threaded inserts that will be mounted from underneath. I need to determine where to drill a through hole in the baffle for each of the different locations, so I'm going to set the subwoofer on there, and then I'm going to use a center punch in order to mark each of the holes. With the location for each hole marked, I then drill a through hole for each screw. I then flip the baffle over, and since the threaded inserts require a slightly larger hole size in order to be set into the wood, I drill down only a partial distance. I can then add each of the threaded inserts into the material using an Allen key. Now that I've added all those threaded inserts to the opposite side, I can now use these machine screws, and the other advantage with this is if I need to take the subwoofer in and out, I can do so multiple times without degrading the quality of the screw hold. The next step here is to start the assembly process. You can see that I've already put 3 of the sides together, so here's my process for doing that. I first take a ruler and a pencil, and since this material is 3/4 of an inch thick, I measure in 3/8 of an inch on each of the sides. This allows me to line up the screw hole perfectly in the middle of the board that it will be going into. Next, I measure in 1.5 inches from the edge of each board and make a mark, and then I use this awesome spacing tool right here to make the rest of the even marks for the screws. Next, I take the piece that I want to attach and apply a bead of wood glue along the edge, and then using an old gift card, I spread out that wood glue to have 100% coverage. Now this box is holding a powerful subwoofer, so I'm going to be using these wood screws in order to secure everything together, and you can see I've selected this drill bit that is a little bit smaller than the shank of the screw. I use this drill bit to pre-drill holes into the box and then set the screws. Now probably the most difficult part about assembling the box is correctly lining up the screw holes on the port walls. This is because you're no longer just lining up with the edge of the wood, you actually need to measure your layout and mark it out on the top side of the board for the port. This is easy enough, just measure in the port width, make a line, measure 3/8 of an inch off of that and make another line, and then measure out your spacings for each screw. Then pre-drill just like before and land another screw. Now don't worry if you have slight imperfections in the alignment of your different boards, just bust out the sandpaper and sand things together flush. Now if your cuts are good and straight, just use a bead of wood glue and smooth it out with your finger to seal things up, and if they're not so straight, you can always use something like a latex caulking. Next up, to add some more strength inside the box, I add these braces that I cut earlier. These fit really good and tight, so I'm using a brad nailer to hold them in place while the wood glue dries. Also in the corners of the enclosure and the port, I'm using these 45s. These help air to flow throughout the enclosure, and they also help to strengthen and seal the corners of the box. And here we have it. Now everything is fully assembled, obviously except for the bottom of the box here, which I still need to attach, but I just want to give you guys a look at the inside geometry here. Those braces are looking awesome. Got the subwoofer mounted in there. It's looking good. Let's get the bottom of the box mounted, and guys, I can't wait. We got to do some test bumping too. Check it out, guys. Here it is, positioned within the vehicle. Got the subwoofer mounted down. Got the box sitting in place. Got the audio control LC-1.1500 all wired up, ready to go. Let's do it. All right, guys, here we go. And just so you know, we're playing royalty-free music, but I have a feeling it's still gonna bump. So, what is next? Well, I need to get this box securely mounted in the vehicle, so be sure to come back for that video, and in the future I'm going to be doing a bunch of custom work to make this install look amazing. Don't forget, the next time that you're looking to upgrade your car audio system, check out Crutchfield at crutchfield.com/CAF. A special thanks to them for sponsoring this video, and a thank you to Bernard, John, Brian, Ali, Jeremy, Doug, Steve, Emmanuel, Jerry, and the rest of the Patreon membership team. Big thanks to all those guys for making these videos possible. I'll catch you guys in the next one.